Welcome back. Yes, indeed, we're focusing on some of these policies. For instance, the electricity metering initiative, which the government did direct. Well, at the moment, the manufacturers are saying, look, there seems to be a hitch. We could be in trouble. Or that directive may not fly owing to certain challenges. Well, those are part of what we'll be considering this morning. We've got Mr. Onohan Nachi, who is an infrastructure and energy policy analyst. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Morning. Nice having you.
Well, when we see that kind of headline that metering directive by the government may not just be executed as intended, it will definitely raise a lot of concerns to people who would have thought, oh, at last, I might be just getting my prepaid meter and not be metered based on estimation. But having seen that and the challenges the manufacturers highlighted, how easy or difficult do you think it will be to overcome them?
What the manufacturers complain about are realities on ground. They're not abstracts. So it's really important that the details are being looked about. It's easy to make some policy pronouncements, but backing it up with the necessary required relationship. The foremost relationship that is key and important is the relationship between the meters manufacturers and the discos.
Yeah.
If that relationship is not well coordinated, which right now as I speak, the discos, in as much as they have been so inefficient in providing meters as that may be, they still feel that while licensing these people, they are eating into our revenue streams, and so somehow there'll be some level of frustrations that will come by it. When we say level of frustrations is, if I'm a meter manufacturer, I have to do some level of specification compliance with what the discos has. And in my own opinion, I think there should be a unified meter system across board, because right now what to have, each discos has a different meter systems, and that makes it, you cannot take the meters that Abuja Disco uses and take it to Ibadan Discos and begin to implement it. So that puts some level of difficulties and how it could comfortably relate. If NEC, because who provides this conducive environment for them to operate is NEC. If NEC can come on ground and put their foot on ground and say, you know what, this is the standard, this is the specifications. And when we talk about specifications, we're talking about scientific specifications that will make the meters to be clearly universal in Nigerian context. And that puts it clear.
Pardon me to butt in for a bit. This thing that you just talked about, the meters, the designs, the different parameters of each one, I'd like to find out from you how significant it is a concern and how significantly does it inhibit what the president has talked about. Because if indeed what you recommend is anything to go by, many people will want to situate it with what we have in the telcos, where we have the 3G network is 3G network across all platforms, and consequently you can use any handset, any GSM handset that's 3G compliant to work it and all of that. Is it something related?
It is close by, but not exactly. The phone system that you just made a reference to has an association called GSMA. It's a global one, where that standard has been stated. So manufacturers take their specification from that. And that is the kind of standard we say NEC should specify, so that manufacturers takes it. And before NEC will specify such standard, there will be a compliance across all discos, the discos that are operating within the country, and even future one. So there will be a software, a standard software that must be approved by NEC and implemented by the disco and by the manufacturer.
Across board.
Across board. It's just like when we look at the bank, as the bank operates. It doesn't matter which bank you own account or another. CBN has a setup, a software, a platform that does check clearing system. So it doesn't matter where your check comes from.
Does it raise questions for capacity for NEC now?
That's another talk. But NEC, I don't really know much about their capacity now, but it should be a breeding ground for young engineers, young scientists, for them to. But the point is, when we are looking at the electricity sphere, we shouldn't just look at it as energy generations. there are level of IT's compliance that are involved. There are level of software development that are involved.
Forgive me. You go to that level of compliance, the technology and all of that, but let's quickly talk about this meter design thing that you just mentioned now. What necessitated the different designs in the first place?
No, everybody, okay, this is fortunately and unfortunate, I'm an insider in all this. When the discos were licensed, it was a case of rollout, do whatever you want. There was nothing guiding and there was nothing this. Every of the discos, some were bringing software from India, some were bringing from Taiwan, some were bringing from China, some were bringing from Eastern Europe. So everybody brought what they needed to run their own operations. And in running that own operations, let's say I have implemented a software called Ogu, and I decide to make Ogu compliance with all my hardware. You have implemented a software called James. James is compliant, but James and Ogu cannot talk to.
No handshake.
So there should be this API that will make them talk, and that makes it easier. Because if we don't get this, the presidential pronouncement is very lovely, lofty. Can it be backed up? We are not even talking about the financing part of it, which is a different case. But
if I could jump in, pardon me, guys. Now, for the president to have made that directive, you'd have thought that he would have been guided by submissions from NEC. That when you give this is where we are, so this directive should be able to work, and all the agencies key into it. Do you get a sense that that transpired?
No, not at all. For such pronouncement of such mass metering to be implemented, one, NEC has to be consulted. The president has an SSA on energy infrastructure, which this lies on his table clearly to advise the president what to do. Various organizations, even the bulk traders and codes, has to be involved. Remember when we say this metering, it is not just the house metering. There is the transmission metering, there is the bulk purchase metering and all that. We need to really solve these problems and put it the way it should be. Then the second part about the pronouncement, if we look at the technology part, is the financing part. You make this pronouncement, it has a huge capital requirement. Can we back it up today with the present economy? We have an economy that is very shaky. By devaluation of our currency, we have lost over $1 trillion naira to it.
Who needs the money when you talk about the finance? Is it the MAPs or the NERC? Who is it that needs
the map that needs the money? It's the map that needs the money. And it's a case of...
but isn't it a business for them?
First and foremost, it was a business for the discos. When the discos were given the assets, one of the promises they made is to work on what we call the ATC&C, the Aggregated Technical Commercials Losses. They were supposed to work on that. And part of this is metering, which is where the commercial losses falls in. If you cannot meter, you're subjecting yourself to commercial losses. But because they have an alternative way of estimated billing, so they decided to choose that option as a more comfortable option because it did not incur any cost for them.
Incidentally, the NERC had this town hall recently where they tabled some of these issues, and you see people talking about some of the issues we have raised, the fact that they have paid for meters for months now.
I followed the virtual town hall meeting.
I mean, and you saw the issues that came up, and the fact that a lot of them have not even been resolved. But you began by saying that, the relationship between discos and the manufacturers is vital to the success of this mass metering program. And you said there's this mindset that, the manufacturers are eating into the money of the discos.
Their market share.
Their market share. So when you look at that relationship right now, how is it?
The questions that NEC need to answer. For the fact that you have licensed a map, does that stop a disco from producing a meter? That question is still very ambiguous and other. Now, if you license me to produce, and who I'm supposed to supply is also producing, we have a competition there. And that becomes a very unhealthy one. Because I can produce, and you say you're not accepting my own production based on specification, or one technical issue.
Which is what they say.
It was raised in that. Then, secondly, when we talk about this, the MAP license was issued under the same vein as generation license. which means there must be off-takers who will provide a guarantee for you to produce this. And that's what the government is coming in to do.
As what, through embed?
No.
Okay, no, that's for electricity itself.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you put that into perspective, like the GenCo that I was referring, before you can set up a generation plant, there is a PPA signed, a power purchase agreement, which the embed takes responsibility that if I produce, you must pay me for it, whether you use it or you don't use it. That's how generation is structured. Then the people that have the map lines, they say, you know what? We can increase our capacity to meet what pronouncement has been made. But yeah. Who signs that if I produce, you must take it?
So that means, as it stands right now, it's set up to fail as well, because it's not clear-cut.
No, it's not set up to fail, but it has an issue that definitely can be comfortably resolved. What I would think the government needs to do is set up a committee to resolve the differences. That the committee will focus on two key areas that will determine the success: the technical end and the funding end. If these two are resolved, then we'll get it. It's not a new thing. The telco resolved it. The banking sector resolved it. So resolving the electricity won't be an issue.
Part of that question too is that, at the time that the discos were saying, well, we can accept meters from them owing to certain specifications. The manufacturers then said, look, you say you wanted smart meters, we have smart meters. You said you wanted B, we have this. So the reasons that they gave up until now, do you think that they're beginning to understand each other to ensure that, okay, well, we can actually get this from you?
Resolving it is very easy, though. Very simple. It can be resolved within 2 weeks. What
do they need to do?
Even less than
another committee?
No. It's not a case of NEC should spearhead it with the SSA to the president, the senior special assistant to the president on energy infrastructure. Put up a meeting, ask every discos to nominate 2 or 3 people into that meeting. It's a meeting, it's not a committee. Now, give them details. If you're coming for this meeting, please officially submit your metering specifications. Let them submit it. And then it will be on record that this is what I submitted. If you meet this, then we'll accept it. But when you don't submit it, you allow me to bring, and you say, no, something is missing. But I bring again, another thing is missing.
But shouldn't we have that uniform template that you suggested the other time, so there is no ambiguity? They all get, the same quality of power from everywhere. So what's the need for the different parameters? Shouldn't we have that uniform template that you talked about?
It's easy to have it. The willingness to have it becomes the second case. What I add, you have heard me several times on your platforms. I'm not so pleased with the discourse, because when you begin to run away from your responsibilities, if discourse has performed as expected, there'll be no need for MAP. There'll be no need for MAP. MAP is an emergency case to rescue situations. And MAP cannot last forever. When everybody gets metered, what next happens? You understand?
Well, the thing about that is this: in spite of all of these reasons that everybody has given, are they tenable for the person out there who says, look, I'm sick and tired of this estimated billing. I just want to be billed based on what I consume. So how will people relate with all of this?
I'm sorry for the estimated billing.
So please react
so
as someone.
Clearly, I have a property here in Abuja, in Jebi. You can imagine within the city centers, they cannot give you a prepared meter. And the rather will tell you, we'll give you the one that's, they have this, I forgot what they call it. They bill you at the end of the month, whatever they bill, and say, this is your bill, and you pay, which is also estimated. But this time around, they have a means of saying, this is what you consume, and this is the rate we're charging, and this is what you pay. But can I have my liberty of having my prepaid meter? When I charge, I have it. When I don't charge, I don't have it. Why must you force me into this? But this particular issue of metering, in my last conversation in this platform, I said, what is wrong with this chain that the disco is the weakest link, and until they are made to implement what they signed as of the time of the concession or privatization to them. And if they are meant to implement that, we'll have peace of mind. But not every time they run away from one responsibility. Either we inject funds into it. If we take a look at the funds that have been injected into the discos, clearly it's almost half of the cost of the asset that was acquired.
I think that's one of the issues Labour raised.
So how can we be injecting such? We have exceeded 1.2 trillion injection into them.
But
so how much do we realize for privatizing those assets to them?
But when the NERC says, you know what, you have to give these people meters 10 days after they pay for it, is that feasible? Because you said that discos are the weakest link. We see that about 37% have just been metered. So that leaves a wide margin of people left to be metered, according to NERC's fourth quarter of last year's report. So how feasible is that within 10 days?
I was listening to the virtual conference that NEC had the other day. What the issue you raised, and the disco gave a response which was so laughable. He said, no, the problem is the people pay before they call us. They should call us to come and evaluate before they pay. You have my fund, you have my money, and you're telling me all this.
Which goes back to the issue we raised the other time about a template design, right? Just because it happens, if it happens in telcos, I mean, I'm still wondering, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. But just quickly, is there a role for the subnationals in this? Lagos State, you are aware, came up with this smart meter initiative, which they are trying to get people to jump on. Is there a significant way in which the states can intervene in this metering initiative?
Let me just say this clearly. Even the map that was issued is also an error, in my personal opinion. If a standard is defined and stated, throw it open. If you can manufacture meters that meet this standard, bring it to the market. I will guarantee you the meter problem will vanish. Everybody, those that has the capital, government don't even need to inject any fund. They don't need to put any fund to it. Put a standard. This is how it's done globally. Put a standard and say, this is the meter standard, this. The only place you come is when you are manufacturing, it has to be tested. Once we test it, and that's all. And business people that wants to make money will do it. They will jump into it as a business. The return on investment is huge. It's over 25%. No money put it back and give you 25% today. As of today, any bank that gives you 3%, 4% interest, you just have to be dancing. Unless you're throwing the money into crowdfunding issues, then you're good to go. But outside that, no bank can give. So once a general standard is defined and throw it open, whether you're a map or nothing, you will say this thing. All you know is we have some standard organization of Nigeria who can satisfy the qualities and all. Those standards will be complied to. And definitely this problem will just vanish. I don't need to come to Abuja Discos to have meter. I only can call them, oh, I have meter, come and install meter in my house. And they come and take it. And once they look at it, they pick the meter, they see Sun card on it, that Sun has satisfied this, they install it. And life moves on. So the issue of government injecting funds in a period where there is scarcity of funds, I just don't understand it.
So no intervention.
We keep saying, open the environment for private sector to participate, for individual to do business.
So no need for states to intervene.
What role are they going to do? States can only intervene and they begin to do bulk purchase for their state indigens and all that. That's the only rule. Or any state that is enterprising in nature can set up a manufacturing plant and manufacture for what his own state will consume at his own rate. But bottom line is standard must be generally agreed upon. Software must be in compliance. API must be integrated and everybody is happy.
Well, part of the complaints that they also spoke about is that a lot of some of the components which is going to be used for the local manufacturing of some of these meters have been held up at the port, Lagos port, for over 3 months. And so that was why we were asking, wait a minute, if the president had given that directive, you thought that all the agencies would have been on board and ensure that they work towards fast-tracking that. But if that's what the meter manufacturers are saying, well, unfortunately, we can't get them to let us into how is this possible when the president has given that directive? You just wonder.
Let me just speak a little about the port issue. That is clearly we always use our called meter manufacturing in Nigeria. In the actual sense, what we have today, I don't know about tomorrow, is meter assembly plants. What they all do is to assemble components and do a few integrations and the meter is up. That's what happened. That is a starting point for technology development, which I encourage. If you can assemble, it means you're on the path that you can begin to manufacture whatever it is. And that is the right thing to do. But when you talk about importations and those things landing, there was a circular I was reading yesterday from CBN about capital inflows and how you use your capital inflows. I was almost shedding tears. If I have a capital inflow, a foreign capital inflow, I have to sell it to the bank or sell it. Hello, where are we heading to as a nation? There are concerns that are really critical. And the port congestions, such pronouncement from Mr. President should also include accelerated clearing for those importing such materials. And once they go land, it should be 3 days.
Because we don't need another committee to ensure that these things work. We don't, do we?
We don't.
Because it appears
it's just the various teams
straightforward.
that exist to have a meeting and develop a synergy that will really make it work.
So
if all the discos can send 2-3 teams, and with NEC and with few other bodies, and they sit on the table, assignments clear. We need a standard specification for our meters. Both smarts, both logical, anything, e-meters, we need a standard one, so that we have a compliance for it. So that's...
I would like to explore, because it's a big deal for people, the fact that they pay for meters and they don't get it weeks after. In fact, some say they send messages, they go on Twitter, try to harass, the discos, and they don't get any response whatsoever, and they have paid for these things. Yep. So still going back to that order, if I can use that term, that people should get their prepaid meters 10 days, not more than 10 days after they have paid. Is it really hard to achieve that?
I can say is hard. Is really hard. I would say it's hard. If it's something they have in stock, then from stock is not hard. But if they don't have it in stock, you're talking about the manufacturer.
Even if they criminalize it, like the law.
Yeah, there's some punishment for you.
Before you put out 10 days, there should be a lag period. You should create a period for them to meet all their stock demand. What am I trying to say? If I'm going to put that 10 days and enforce that 10 days, you must give me at least 90 days to reinforce the manufacturing section of it. So that after the 90 days has elapsed, the 10 days begins to count. But it's a good thing to stipulate time frame.
Right.
It's a good thing but if we want to do that, we should also make sure that before they accept the payment, because when I listened to the conversation, one of the issues that was the disco's defense is they don't get clearance from us before they pay. That they should get clearance from us, they pay. And I said, this is laughable. Because the disco's were saying, let me use Chamberlain. Say, before you pay for your meters, you need to call me the discos, and I'll come to your house and do an evaluation of your electricity demand. When I satisfy that, then you can pay. And then when you pay, but now the platform they have says you can order for a meter, log on, order for a meter, make your payment.
It's not the consumer's
fault. So it's not the
consumer's
issue. That's why I said that excuse was just meant to run away, to hide under one.
Simple. Return the money there, and if they pay without consent.
And then let's start counting. But you said 90 days first, and then 10 days. I don't understand that part where you say...
No. It's a case of giving a lag period for manufacturing. Now, if you make a law, when does that law become enforceable? I agree on the 10 days, it can be achieved, but it requires a lag period. Once we make the law, say this law is enforceable after 90 days, after so and so days, define it. So that you're only creating that to deny them of any excuses that could come up. So that if you have to manufacture, if you have to import, you have to do anything, and that's what I say, it's a chain. Now, these map operators, how do they have access to Forex? Is CBN willing, because I'm a map person and this mandate has been given, my Forex is immediate. So there are interrelated relationships because you see somebody who is a licensed map who wants to import something that will enable him provide 1 million meters. And CBN is saying, You have made a request for $10 million for us. No, we can only give you $1 million. How do you go about it?
Well, questions there and unending, as a matter of fact. Well, we do thank you for coming on, Mr. Nohan Nachi. We'll be back in just a moment and focus on some of the other matters we've got lined up for you. Don't go away.